supposed to let that drain for at least 12 hours. Hello friends, I'm Jeanette, and we're going to try our hand at making some more cheese from raw milk without any additives such as cultures or rennets. Now I am going to put some other things in it as I make it as part of the process, but as far as getting the milk to sour on its own and not adding any kind of culture to it is what I'm going to do. Now I went to my Amish friends and I bought 2 more gallons of whole milk. The cream has risen to the top, and so the first thing I want to do is separate it and put it into this jar. The recipe that I'm going to use comes out of a cookbook called Amish Cooking, and the book is compiled of a lot of different ladies' recipes, and I think they're primarily up in the Canada area, and they like to compile books of various different recipes and sell them as money-making projects. So that's what I've gotten here. The Amish have recipes that are often not common to what I'm used to doing, and the people who are watching me probably are used to doing. They know how to do a few things that are different and don't use modern conveniences or products. Well, I got my milk all skimmed, and I got a pretty good amount of cream out of here off these 2 gallons, which I always like. I always like getting a lot of cream. I'll be making some more butter out of that, and then I have an idea for a video to do with butter. Besides, I already made one out of making the butter, which you might want to go look at in case you haven't seen yet. With 1 gallon of milk I want to use to make my cheese, and I want to pour it in here, but first I want to make sure I have a full gallon. So I need to carefully pour some from here, and then I'm going to carefully pour it into my pan. Okay, I'll put a lid on this pan and I'll set it on my counter over here and keep it at room temperature for 1 or 2 days, depending on however long it takes for it to clabber. And by clabbering, what happens is the proteins from the milk solids separate from the proteins of the milk whey or liquid, and part of it turns into a solid piece of curd in there. And that's what I'm looking for, and when it turns into that, then I'll be seeing you again, and don't go away. So after a couple days, my milk has curdled very nicely, and at this point I'm going to cut it into about 1/2 inch wide strips going one way. Then I'll go the other way, perpendicular to that. And then in order to make little cubes, I'll do it at a diagonal. And we should come out with little cubes, diamond-shaped cubes. And as I stir it, if anything looks too big, I can cut that one. The next step is to cook the curd, and I'm going to cook it on kind of medium-low heat. Heat it up slowly and stir it fairly often, really gently at first. I need to pay attention to this, but I don't have to stir it all the time. After I've cooked it long enough that I definitely don't feel comfortable sticking my fingers in there, then I have to drain off the whey and catch the curds in a bag over here in my sink. I've lined a colander with a bowl underneath it with some cheesecloth. Here's one of the curds. It's got little holes in it where the whey came out, and it's fairly firm. It's soft, but it's kind of firm, and it looks like it wants to stick together pretty good. Now I'm going to gather the corners up, bring them up out of the way. Above my sink I have this 3-pronged like a towel holder thing, so it's really handy that I can use that and just let the whey drip back down into the sink. After the right time is up, we're going to take that down from there and put it in this bowl. I'm choosing a metal bowl because after I'm through with this step and on to the next step, what I need to do is a double boiler situation, and I'm able to put this metal bowl down into hot water. Now what I need to do is just crumble this all up. It crumbles pretty easy. It's fairly firm, but it crumbles very easily. To this I'm going to add 1 teaspoon baking soda and half a stick of butter that's pretty soft. And then I'll work that with my hands again. Try to distribute the butter and the baking soda around. Now this needs to rest and sit for at least 2 hours. After we've let this cheese curd sit with baking soda and butter in it, then it's time to take it over and put it in a pan of water, and we're going to heat it up using a double boiler system. And over on the stove, I'm supposed to let it heat up and melt. And I'm supposed to put a total cup of sour cream in it, but only half a cup at a time. So first I'm going to put in about half a cup of sour cream and stir this around, gently warming up over that hot water that's going to be underneath the bowl. While that's heating up, I'm going to liberally butter this dish right here and use it as a mold. It looks like it's melting pretty nicely. I want to show you again the process of getting this melted. Now I've been working on melting it and stirring it, not constantly, but stirring it often, and it's melting pretty slow. There's still some little chunks in there that I hope will melt. I expect they'll melt. It's just taking a little bit of time. I believe I cooked it long enough that anything that was going to melt would have melted, but there's still some little flecks of unmelted in there. I tasted it, and when I put it in my mouth, I can't really detect those little flecks, so they must be super soft. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my other amount of sour cream. And then I need to add a heaping teaspoon of salt for this amount of milk, 1 gallon of milk. I'm going to turn the burner off and get that stirred in. And then I'm pouring it into my mold. This will need to sit out in my kitchen and cool because it's quite hot. And then after it's cool enough, I'll put it in the refrigerator. And then after that, we'll give it a try. We'll see if old guy wants to give it a try this time. I could see a little film developing on the top, so I decided to press some plastic wrap down onto the surface. I think that it'll help stop that film from developing on the top of it. Well, it's morning and it's time for the big reveal. I'm kind of excited about this to see what this cheese is going to look like. I guess I better add taste like to that also. Okay, if you remember, I put this plastic wrap on it so that it wouldn't make a film, which if you look down in the corner right here, maybe you can see how the plastic wrap wasn't on there, and it kind of looks a little drier by being a darker color. It seems kind of springy, which this is called Muenster cheese in the cookbook. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, and that's a pretty soft, springy cheese. I think it's probably not a true Muenster. I don't even know the process. I didn't look up the process of it, but I'm cutting around the edges. Even though I did butter this, I want to make sure I can get it out. I think I have it loose to the point that I can get it out easily. There it came. Well, that's what it looks like. I can still see a little bit of the flecks in there of the curds that weren't wanting to melt for me. As far as the texture that I'm feeling just by handling it with my hands, it feels a lot like the Muenster cheese, maybe a little bit softer.
I'm not sure my taster is working too well yet. It's only 8:45, but I'm kind of lazy today. But I'll see what I think. Muenster has always been my favorite cheese.
Why has Muenster always been your favorite cheese?
Because I like it better than the rest.
Well, what about it did you like?
I guess because it's a softer cheese, and I just like the flavor. This got a pretty good flavor. It might be a speck salty.
That surprises me because I didn't think it was. Whenever I took a bite, and you like salt so much that I think it would make great grilled cheese sandwiches.
For sure.
Yes, so we're probably going to try doing that with it and just eating it. Well, I'm real happy with the way this turned out. It was really very simple as far as making cheese, because some cheese making can be quite complicated. Okay, this is something we're going to do again. I'm going to do again. You'll probably eat it again.
And I think your grandchildren will like the cheese sandwiches.
Yeah, they like grilled cheese sandwiches when they come to Grandma's house. All right, thanks for joining us, and we'll be doing some more raw milk videos coming up, so watch out for it. Bye.
Just to be with you.